Have you ever heard the expression rich as Croesus? Well, this is the story of King Croesus, a ruler so wealthy that his name still defines riches. But his life is also a warning that fortune can turn to ruin in a single moment. So let's go back in time to the 6th century BC, to the kingdom of Lydia in what is today Western Turkey. Lydia was a small but mighty kingdom. And when Croesus came to power in 560 BC, he set about making it the greatest in the world. First, he took the neighboring regions of Ionia, and then he crushed the Cimmerians north of the Halys River. After that, he turned west and took the cities of Thyatira and Philadelphia. Then he went south to take over the Dorian city of Sicyon. There he met his match in the person of King Olowatus of the neighboring kingdom of Lydia. The two kings fought each other to a standstill, so they decided to carve up the region between them with the river Cayster as the boundary. With peace secured, Croesus went about the business of ruling his people, and here is where his greatness lay. He introduced the world's first pure gold and silver coins, which made trade easier than ever before. In fact, his coins became the standard throughout the entire region. Under his rule, Lydia became an economic powerhouse, its coffers overflowing with gold. Indeed, Croesus loved nothing more than displaying his fabulous wealth. For example, he built magnificent palaces for himself and his court, and lavished gold on the temples of the gods. He even gave gold to the Oracle of Delphi, which may have contributed to the famous saying that the gold of Croesus shall be the price of prophecy. In fact, it is said that at one point Croesus had so much gold it was practically worthless in his kingdom. Also, he delighted in throwing extravagant parties for visiting dignitaries. And in all the land, there was no one richer or more powerful than Croesus. Indeed, he considered himself the happiest man alive. That was until one day when the famed Greek philosopher Solon visited him. Croesus welcomed him warmly and asked him a simple question. "What do you think? Am I the happiest man alive?" Solon smiled mysteriously and replied, "You cannot call any man happy until the end of his life. Fortune can change in an instant." Croesus laughed heartily and dismissed him. "Why? I'm surrounded by every luxury imaginable. What more could I possibly need?" he thought. However, fate had a cruel twist in store for Croesus. See, while Croesus basked in his luxurious lifestyle, his neighbors, the Persians under their king Cyrus the Great, were growing restless. Now Croesus was aware of this, and he wanted to strike first. So he went to the Oracle of Delphi and asked, "Will I succeed if I attack the Persians?" The oracle replied mysteriously, "If you cross the Halys, you will destroy a great empire." Croesus thought he was the richest and most powerful man in the world. How could anyone stop him from conquering Persia? Besides, the oracle had never given him a direct answer before, so he figured she must have meant yes. Therefore, he prepared for war. Now, Croesus was a brilliant military strategist and commander. His army was well trained and equipped, and he was confident in his own abilities. But he had one fatal flaw: pride. He was just too sure of himself and his destiny. "I am invincible," he kept telling himself. And that belief blinded him to the danger that lay ahead. You see, when he marched against the Persians, fortune abandoned him. His supply lines were cut off, his troops went hungry and thirsty, and Cyrus picked them off one by one. Then when the two armies finally met in battle, the Persians overwhelmed the Lydians. Croesus tried to rally his troops, but it was no use. They were defeated, and he barely escaped with his life. Cyrus then took the Lydian capital of Sardis and captured Croesus' family and nobles. It is said that he offered Croesus a chance to buy his freedom by having him weigh out his weight in gold, but this is likely a myth. In reality, Croesus was taken to Persia as a prisoner. According to Herodotus, he spent the rest of his life as an advisor to Cyrus, but this is unlikely as well. See, after Croesus was captured, the Lydian nobility rebelled against Persian rule, and Cyrus crushed them mercilessly. In fact, he even executed Croesus' son Elias for plotting to take the throne. So it is more likely that Croesus spent his remaining years in Persia as a prisoner. The end of his life is best described by the historian Xenophon, who wrote, "There is a story about Croesus, which goes as follows. When Cyrus had conquered Lydia, he had all the principal men of the country summoned before him and asked them what they would have him do with them. They expected that he would put them to death, and indeed he condemned some of them to death. The rest he ordered to be thrown into a chasm, to be buried alive. Then he turned to Croesus and said, "What do you want me to do with this man?" To which he replied, "Since he was king when you attacked his country, and did not make submission to you, he deserves no mercy. Put him to death." Cyrus ordered that he should be treated in accordance with his rank, and that the Lydians should be allowed to bury their king. So Croesus died with full honors. Now, many historians believe that Croesus actually died by fire. The ancient Greeks tell us that after his capture, Cyrus had him bound to a funeral pyre and burned him alive. This story has survived in a number of different versions. For example, the Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "Cyrus spared the Lydian king because he found him worthy to be an example of fortitude. He bound him to a fiery pile and told him to endure, saying that such a man deserved not to die by a shameful death, but that he should learn by an example of another that how to die bravely. For who could be more unhappy than he who had reigned over all the Lydians, was rich beyond all others, and could not enjoy his wealth, nor yet die gloriously in battle?" And the Roman philosopher Pliny the Younger wrote, "It is related of Cyrus that when he had made Croesus prisoner, he brought him into a sumptuous apartment, where he had heaped up a huge pile of wood for a funeral pyre, and asked him whether he would choose to die that way. Surprised by the question, Croesus answered, 'How can you ask me what I would rather die? It is enough that I am dying.' So he was burned alive." Now, we don't know for sure if Croesus was burnt alive or not, but it makes sense. After all, Croesus had once planned to burn the Lydian nobility alive. Besides, the Persians did kill him in cold blood after he surrendered. Therefore, I tend to think that the stories about Croesus being burned alive are authentic. However, these accounts are also important for another reason. You see, they show that Croesus repented for his crimes, especially his hubris. For example, he accepted his fate without complaining. He understood that no man is invincible, and he even advised Cyrus on how to rule his new empire. Furthermore, he showed no hatred toward Cyrus, even though Cyrus had the opportunity to kill him many times, but he didn't. In fact, he showed mercy towards him. In the end, Croesus may have been rich and powerful, but he was also proud and ambitious. He was greedy for more land and power, and that led to his downfall. But he was also wise and philosophical, and those traits helped him in his final moments. In the end, Croesus lived out his days as an advisor, his empire gone, but his name immortalized. But now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this episode? You think Croesus got his just desserts? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching.